You made your first movie at the age of 12 by the camera given to you by your father. Did you aspire to become a director even as a child?
I was 12 years old when I made that film because I had my father's movie camera. And because of that, I had the advantage that I could actually go ahead and make a film. So the main thing was to write a script. So I wrote a script. And the script happened to be one that had to do with, you see, every summer vacation, our friends and cousins, largely cousins, used to come from different parts of India and spend it with us. And we would have great picnics and, adventure sports and various things. And so I worked out a little story. And the story was quite simple. Kids go out on a picnic. One of them gets lost. And so the rest of them go looking for that lost person who, after much adventure, they find and bring him back home. And that was the story of the film. It was a lot of fun to make. And after that, I knew that I would be able to make a film. Because it's important to know that you can tell a story through the cinema. And if you can, and it's wonderful.
Which is your all-time favorite movie and why?
It's very difficult to tell that there will be an all-time favorite movie. There are movies that become great favorites for a while, and then there are other movies that come and take their place. But if you ask me, some of the films that I will never forget for the rest of my life, properly, they're still very vivid in my mind, are films like Pathe Panchali of Satyajit Ray, films like Mother India of Mehboob, films that are made outside of India like Bicycle Thieves from Italy, Vittorio De Sica, Kurosawa's Ran, Japanese film, and so on. There are films. But, there are some very great film directors who made some very great films. So it's very hard to choose and say my all-time favorite.
Your movies touch on various social issues. Do you think that these kinds of movies can give the people the ability to speak up and do something about such issues?
Well, they do. You see, but films are not necessarily... No film can change society. But films can do a very important... They have a fairly important place in social change because they make people aware. They make people aware. You see, let's say you are a news person. You tell the news. But news is only one facet of a whole thing, of a whole thing. There's a whole situation there. And that situation, that is a dynamic that's changing. And news happens to be a facet that you deal with as newscasters. But a filmmaker can deal with that thing in a great deal of depth. He can deal with it in a great deal of depth. And there are certain things in each society that need to be corrected. Because particularly now, since we have all agreed, universally agreed, that human rights are very important. And because human rights are important, equality is important among people. So the caste system, inequities of the caste system, then you have 50% of the world consists of women. But women are unequal. They have been placed in an unequal situation, made dependent. So it's important to empower women. So they are equal, not unequal. I'm not saying films will change it. People change. People will make things change, not films. But films create a certain circumstance create a certain awareness so that change becomes more acceptable.
Could you share with us any special moment that you had throughout your career?
You see, when you're making a film, every film is different from the other. And therefore, making a film is always a very, is an experience that is never repeated. Because each film has its own special problems, its own special ways that you have to deal, because you're dealing with people. You're not dealing with machines. And if you're dealing with people, people have so many different temperaments. You have to deal with all of them. So you're constantly confronted with this kind of situation. And then you are taking everybody with you in making of a film. People of different temperaments, different kinds of ideas, different kinds of everything. But when they're making the film, they're all in the same direction. And get them to be in the same direction. And when you get them to be in the same direction, it's an extraordinary experience when you're making a film. And each film is different because people are different. And each story that you're making is also different from the story you made before. And therefore that experience also is new. But each experience for me has been different. So if you ask me which was the best experience, very difficult to tell. It hasn't happened yet. Because all experiences to me are equally exciting.
Could you tell us something about your upcoming projects?
Well, you see, I'm very superstitious about that. I'm working. I'm writing a couple of scripts. I'm hoping to make a film this year. And hopefully it should happen before December.
What would you like to say to the youth who aspire to become like you?
I always say one thing. Older people should stop giving advice to young people because they face a different kind of problem than you did. You see, you cannot look at the past and think that you can learn that because society changes. So many things change. So you cannot say it. The only thing you can say is universally applicable is what one might call decency and basic human morality. That remains the same for every generation. Having said that, the challenges of the young today are very different from the challenges that we faced. So I cannot advise them. But what I can say is that whatever you decide upon, if you are actually committed to that, if you see this is what I have to do in life, then you must go ahead and do it, whatever happens. So whatever frustrations you might face on the way, but that is what you have to do, then you have to do it. And therefore I say, bash on regardless. Don't worry. Keep at it. Whatever your frustrations might be along the way. Because if you want it hard enough and you're willing to work hard for it, it will happen.
With this, we come to the end of today's show. For feedbacks, mail us at youthtya@gmail.com. Our mailing address is YouthTVShow, GPO 8975 EPC 5478, Kathmandu. We look forward to meeting you next week, same time. Thank you for watching us. Have a nice week. Namaste.